Across Latin American people continue to pay tribute to Pope Francis after his death at the age of 88. In Palestine, authorities report that following an Israeli attack on the residential complex in the central Gaza Strip, the number of casualties killed rose to 32. The International Monetary Fund said Donald Trump's tariffs have unleashed a major negative shock into the world economy as it cut its forecast for global growth. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Mara Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. The College of Cardinals met at the Vatican on Tuesday to debate plans for the funeral of Pope Francis and a conclave to elect his successor. Around 60 cardinals reportedly participated in the first meeting on Saturday, April the 26th, as the death for the pontiff's funeral. His body will be previously transferred to the St. Peter's Basilica on April 23rd for a 3-day-long public wake. Protocol calls for a state ceremony followed by a simple burial in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore, as Francis has ordered in his will. Around the world, senior officials and people have paid tribute to Pope Francis on Tuesday, a day after the Vatican announced the 88-year-old pontiff's death.
Do you think he was very outspoken on issues, especially yesterday's message about Gaza and Israel and Ukraine and Russia? And I think his message to political leaders is very important. And I think that the papacy will continue to have influence on world leaders.
Since I don't follow Christianity, but I did know about him and I knew about how big a personality he was for this church. And so, yeah, I think it's a big loss for not just for the Vatican City, but for the entire world.
I am Muslim. I would say that I am so sorry for the Christian community, and I would like to say also that I am sure the Christian community will rise from this sad news. This is so crucial today to come together, all communities, and be as one through these hard times. When all news now trying to separate us as communities, I think this is a land point to say, let's get together, let's be sad all together for this huge news, and yeah, this is time to be together.
Across Latin American people continue to pay tribute to Pope Francis after his death at the age of 88. The Pope is currently lying in state in the Santa Marta Domus in a private viewing for Vatican residents and the papal household. In Ecuador, which Pope Francis visited in 2015, the Pontifical Catholic University of Ecuador set up a book of commemoration for people to sign. In Cuba, to honor Pope Francis, the government decreed an official mourning period from Tuesday at 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. on the 24 hours and ordered that the country's flags be floated half-mast in public buildings and institutions. Cuban leaders and former President Raúl Castro released a message following the death of Pope Francis and called him a dear friend whom he will always carry in his heart. Latin American held a special place in Pope Francis' agenda with 7 trips that includes 10 countries in the region. His first international trip was to Brazil shortly after his election, and his last Latin American visit was to Panama in January 2019.
Francis, the first pope in history born in Latin America, had in this region some of the priorities of his pontificate, but he also found enormous challenges and limitations. During his visit to Cuba, Francis met with Commander Fidel Castro. Although it was a private meeting, it was an important moment because of his strong condemnation of the U.S. blockade against the island. the Supreme Pontiff also played a key role in the diplomatic rapprochement between Havana and Washington. During his visit to Brazil, the Pope criticized the inaction of the clergy, called for the recovery of the faithful and asked Catholics to go to the favelas of the cities, one of which he visited on that occasion. With gestures such as his support for peace in the region, Pope Francis gave the Vatican a leading role in peace negotiations such as the case of Colombia to seek an end to the armed conflict that plagues the country. Francis toured the Bolivian cities of El Alto, La Paz, and Santa Cruz. In this country, the Pope spoke of the sea and asked forgiveness for the oppression against indigenous peoples. In the midst of a serious political and economic crisis resulting from the U.S. blockade against Venezuela, the Pope took steps to establish a dialogue between the government of Nicolas Maduro and the opposition. Bergoglio took over the leadership of a church with great challenges and crises, two of which directly involved Latin America, the fall in the number of faithful and sexual abuse scandals within the church.
In this regard, during her morning press conference, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum highlighted Pope Francis' influence on reforms within the Catholic Church and his critical view of neoliberalism and consumerism.
Que es un pensamiento humanista,
His was a humanist way of thinking. Very progressive, let's put it like that. In the sense of it was always approaching the humblest, the poorest, the forgotten, calling the whole world to the construction of peace. Also his criticism of neoliberalism, consumerism, and the recovery of austerity values in his own person and in general in the Catholic Church.
su propia persona y en general.
For his part, while addressing the Pope's legacy, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez underscored on Tuesday his advocacy for the fight against intolerance.
Un líder que abogó por la lucha contra la pobreza.
He was a leader who advocated for the fight against poverty, for a humanistic view of the migration phenomenon, for the mitigation and adaptation to climate change, or against intolerance when it was most needed. I am convinced that the world will miss his courage, his message, and from Spain we will honor his figure.
Y desde España honraremos su figura.
Let's take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. Activists and people worldwide commemorate International Earth Day, aimed crisis warning in several countries. Environmental groups have issued numerous warnings and campaigns globally urging the United Nations to raise awareness of climate change crisis that brings devastation in many countries. In this context, Cuban authorities are managing to control wildfires in Pinar del Rio that stems from a prolonged drought. Likewise, in Mexico, efforts are being made to extinguish over 100 fire outbreaks in the forest. And during the graduation of the first special course for the Bolivarian National Guard Command on Tuesday, the Venezuelan Ministry on Defense, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, assured that the threats and conspiracies against the peace of the country are permanent.
Permanentemente, la revolución bolivariana, humildemente.
The Bolivarian Revolution, and I say humbly, with its intelligence, with its working capacity, has had to do and change things constantly, because the threats are also constantly changing, and also constantly is the conspiracy against the project, against the Bolivarian historical bloc, the conspiracy against the homeland, the conspiracy against our territorial integrity, the conspiracy against the peace of the country, and also the conspiracy to make our country surrender.
The military chief also highlighted the importance of strengthening the Bolivarian project in the face of the constant imperial threats against the nation.
difícilmente Venezuela pueda preservar su
It would be difficult for Venezuela to preserve its territorial integrity and its sovereignty, without the revolutionary Bolivarian project that Commander Hugo Chavez gave us, the Bolivarian project that President Nicolas Maduro leads today. It would be difficult for Venezuela to remain united, dignified, upright, as always, looking to the horizon.
digna, levantada, como siempre viendo a los
In Nicaragua, thousands of people mobilized on Tuesday throughout the country to support their commitment to defend the peace and the policies promoted by the Sandinista government. Nicaragua's National Assembly unanimously approved declaring April as a month in which the people defend the peace. In a plenary session, legislators recognized the historical struggle and the courage of the Nicaraguan people who have been able to confront the aggressors and traitors of the homeland. In a communique, the parliament specified that with this approval, the protagonism of people is recognized who managed to consolidate peace as an unavailable asset and the fundamental pillar of which the future of the nation's children is built. Another news, a Colombian judge orders an investigation of cyclist Lucho Herrera for his possible involvement in the forced displacements of farmers. The request was issued by Judge Maria del Pilar Bocalejo in Cundinamarca Department, where Herrera was born and resides. According to the document, the judge based her ruling on an anticipated sentence related to one of the paramilitaries implicated in this case. According to the sentence, the main subject of the investigations conducted on October 11, 2022, pointed out to be Herrera. This testimony leads authorities to consider the need to investigate the likely participation of the cyclist in this serious incident, which had left a deep mark on the local community. Let's take a last break, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, specialized coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. We'll find a short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Palestine, authorities report that following an Israeli attack on a residential complex in central Gaza Strip, the number of casualties killed rose to 32. The preliminary reports detailed that among the fatalities were a group of 10 children in the locality of Deir Al-Balah. According to the health authority, the bombardment also hit the northeast of the city of Rafah as part of the escalation in an attempt to control southern Gaza, leading to forced displacements. The Zionist army maneuver has intensified after violating the ceasefire agreement, which they have reactivated in plans to take territorial control of the southern enclave. The authorities announced on Tuesday that the number of people killed by Israel has increased to more than 51,000 and at least 117,000 wounded since the beginning of the genocide perpetrated by the occupation forces in the Gaza Strip. Palestinian authorities accuse Israel's military of destroying equipment that had been supplied by mediators to clear the rubble in northern Gaza. According to a statement by the Palestinian officials, an Israeli airstrike on a storage facility in the municipality of Jabalia al-Nazla destroyed 9 bulldozers, which has been provided by the Egyptian Qatari Committee that was monitoring the land ceasefire in the region. The text also denounced the destruction of trucks used to put out sewage, a mobile water tank provided by the International Committee of the Red Cross, and a UNICEF-provided mobile generator which the municipality used to operate water wheels. Israel's 18-month offensive on Gaza has destroyed vast areas of the region, raising fears that much of it might never be rebuilt. More than 25 people were killed on Tuesday in the Indian region of Kashmir after gunmen opened fire on a group of tourists. The attack, which happens in the midst of a visit to the country's by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, occurred in the Baisaran village in the tourist town of Pahalgam. The gunmen reportedly emerged from a dense pine forest and approached tourists from the direction of the nearby mountains. Russian President Vladimir Putin met the Sultan of Oman, Haitham bin Tariq Al Said, who is in Moscow on a state visit. This is the first ever meeting between the two heads of state. Prior to that, they had spoken on the phone in March 2023, the first high-level bilateral contact between the two countries since the establishment of diplomatic relations. Both leaders pledged to work to enhance cooperation in different sectors.
We strive to establish distinguished and beneficial relations between us that serve the people of both countries. Our meeting this morning was with a group of businessmen who are genuinely interested in developing this relationship.
In this context, the Russian president extended the Sultan an invitation to an upcoming summit between the League of the Arab States and Russia.
We plan to hold a summit between Russia and the Arab countries this year. Many of our friends in the Arab world support this idea. Your Majesty, if you find the time, we would be delighted to see you at this summit between the League of Arab States and Russia.
The International Monetary Fund said Donald Trump's tariffs have unleashed a major negative shock into the world economy as it cuts its forecast for global growth. In a stark assessment of the impact of the U.S. president's policies, the organization cut its forecast for global GDP growth to 2.8% for this year. Its forecasts show every major economic being hit with a sharper deterioration for the U.S. from 2.7% to 1.8%. In Spain, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced an investment for security and defense spending. On a meeting with local media, Sánchez highlighted that the Council of Ministers approved an industrial and technological plan to be sent to Brussels to be evaluated by the European Union and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Moreover, the Premier said that the additional investment will be over 10.4 billion euros to allocate 2% of the gross domestic product by the end of 2025. The senior authorities reiterate that increase in spending won't be related to the financing of social items, nor will it represent a hike in taxes. And with that, we have come to the end of this brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials, we're on Facebook and X, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English and from the South, I'm Marrero. Thank you for watching.